So as you all know, Joy's here because because she said yes, she'd come, and because she also we're talking about co-creation in the kingdom of God, and when we talk about co-creation, we're talking about all the ways in which we engage God, which we engage in the church, and which we engage in the community. And so Joy is a representative of the community, also a person of faith. And is at home in churches. We'll find out more about that. She is the city council member for District 3, which is right here and around here. So here and adjacent places to here. And is a person that has wound her way through the city system. Because you grew up here. You went to elementary school here, Meany Junior High School. Did you go to Garfield High School?
I went to Seattle Prep.
Seattle Prep. Where my kids went. Fabulous. So went to Prep, and like the Con kids and others, and and then left for a little bit. Yes. Arizona and
Greece. I played overseas in Greece.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
Oh,
yes.
We'll get to that. That'll be cool. And then University of Washington. And then coached at SU. Yep. So boy, she knows her way around. A couple of generations here in the city.
Yes, sir.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bio. Yep. Dig into it a bit.
Good morning, Epiphany. Good morning. I enjoyed service with you and had a great time. I am your neighbor from 23rd and John. 4 generations deep. I still live in the house my grandmother purchased in 1947.
Awesome.
For $5,000. Wild, right? I wish I could purchase 10 of those right now. And we converted it to a triplex back in 2000. So right now I live there with my brother, who's in the basement with his wife and his new baby, who we brought home just 4 months ago in the same house that we were brought into as babies. So it's definitely a full circle. I went to Stevens, Meany, Tops, Seattle Prep. Had a great time at Arizona where I played basketball, went overseas to Greece as well, and have come back and done nonprofit work, small business work, and decided to run for city council last year in 2023. And I've been serving as your representative for District 3 for the last 9 months, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And some of our North Star for our office are kids, making sure that our city's safe for our families as well, our small businesses, the Seattle that I grew up, community, culture, commerce. Those 3 all intersected in a beautiful way, as I know that our city, just growing up here, what I experienced.
So when you were growing up, tell us about people you remembered in your life, people that were big influences on forming you into the person you've turned into today.
Should I be talking to you or everyone?
You talk to these
everyone?
guys or
okay.
me. Well, I don't know. I've never sat on that side of the chair. I just talk to you, and you got to talk to everybody.
Some of the people I remember. The question is, some of the people I remember growing up that had that influence on me. Yeah, there were a ton of people. I grew up at First AME Church, where I was baptized and raised, where I'm still a member right now, which is on 14th in Madison. And some of the people, I just was there yesterday, and some of the people that are still alive today had a very influential impact on me. My grandmother, who passed away in 2022, she lived to be 101, isn't that crazy? And I said, Grandma, how did you do that? And she said, Joy, it was a tall glass of vodka, a splash of orange juice for color so people wouldn't judge me. And that was her trick, she told me. But my grandmother, who was a part of our school board back in the 1970s, her name was Dorothy Hollingsworth. She was very influential for me. My mother, Rhonda Hollingsworth, who grew up in New Orleans, moved here when my uncle played for the Sonics back in the 70s. And so she met my father here in Seattle, so we have deep roots there. Also, the people, I have a lot of aunties and uncles that I call them in our church who were very influential for me. I also had Regina Mellinson, who was my teacher at Seattle Prep. She's actually one of your neighbors, lives a couple blocks from here as well. Coaches, I had basketball coaches that were phenomenal for me, from Marvina Kemp, who was Sean Kemp's wife back in the day, who was my first coach. All these life lessons I had growing up, they were all my neighbors, they were all coaches, they were teachers, they were pastors, they were reverend. All these people, it was definitely a collection of folks that helped raise me.
And when they were raising you, what was the biggest challenge they had in raising you?
It's a great question. I was a little rebellious. I asked a lot of questions. Why? And I wanted to know because I was inquisitive of certain things. I know a lot of times we have a younger generation that asks why because they want to know. I was a kid that asked why a lot. I also was a kid that just dreamed really big and just had these really big dreams, and they always were trying to say, okay, Joy, what's the first step? What is step one to get to that dream? Because I had these big goals. What's your first step? So that was really key for me as well. I procrastinate a lot, and so they were able to kind of help me understand about managing my time, setting goals and progress. And the biggest thing that I learned in sports was consistency, how to be consistent at something, and my mental health being incredibly positive during no matter what.
Even in Greece? What was it like being in Greece?
Greece was incredible. The food was amazing. This was before I was a vegan, so I ate chicken, just amazing amounts of chicken. But I think the cool thing about that the one thing that I loved was the historical piece, Acropolis, all of the ancient Greek mythology. It was just everywhere, and that was the one thing. I would go to different churches. I'm a big person that likes to visit different churches. During the break of our recess, I went to Rome, so I got to go visit just incredible amount of churches because I love to see the architecture, the stonework, the glass windows, stained glass windows. You all have a beautiful church as well. I wanted to and that's the first thing I saw was the beautiful stained glass windows.
So tell us about the day in the life, or maybe I should say, the week in the life of a council member. What do you do? What's it like? Tell us about the rhythm. Give us the behind the scenes insight into the work you do as a council member.
Yeah, so first in January, it felt like I was hit by a running train, like just ran over. When I was a senior in college, I was struggling in class. I tell people I got an A in basketball and, all the other subjects were whatever. I remember meeting my counselor, and I remember wholeheartedly, I said, I don't want to I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And he goes, well, Joy, that light at the end of the tunnel is a train right now. So, we need to get you back on track. And that's what city council felt like at the beginning, where you're just inundated with information, with, issues that are going on in the city. My voicemail was packed full. My email box, it was very, very overwhelming. And what we did was we started to set up systems. And I said, you know what? All I can do is be incredibly responsive for people. I can show up at the beginning, just be with people and connect and get the information at the beginning and be very consistent. Those were the things that I learned growing up here in Seattle, here in basketball, but just being very consistent. And what I realized was that people were hungry for connection. They were hungry for stability. People have been hungry for just like family and community. And they just want someone who is present, available, who will work hard for them. And I knew that if I just had laid those foundations with our staff and myself, that we can continue to move forward.
And what surprised you the most? Was there anything you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming?
How siloed we are as a city, how people, especially city departments, how we all operate kind of individually, and then how the connection with the county and the state, wanting to reconnect that. I think COVID exacerbated a lot of the disconnect from people and a lot of the isolation and silos that people had gotten so comfortable working in. And so 2024 felt like the year of reconnection and of seed planting. And I know we'll start to see the seeds that we have planted as a council, that we have as an office, we'll start watering them in 2025, and then we'll start seeing them harvest, next year in 2026. Like, that's what we're laying right now.
Yeah. How does your person of faith, right? How do you think about your faith as a council member? How do you think about it in your leadership? How does it impact your thinking and doing as a council member?
It's definitely my moral compass. It's something that I prayed upon before I ran. I felt like it was, this might sound weird, I felt like it was a calling for me to run in a way, for us to reset Seattle, for us to have some type of compassion, for us to have some type of conversation, but most importantly for us to really build a foundation on our commonality. Rather, we just see just differences all the time, and we talk about that first. And I thought this was a really important time for us to find our commonality in folks. I can get along with anybody on our council. No matter if I read something bad about what they said at me in the paper, which they haven't just yet, but that's kind of a pet peeve of mine, but they have not. But it was really anything that I do, no matter what, I think about the people that are impacted. I think about the process that needs to happen. I think about good policies that are in place with that as well. And I think about the love that needs to be there. We have to start getting back to a city where we like love each other and really have a connection.
Doesn't that resonate with our theology here, right? Love is the essence of our Trinitarian God, right? It is the thing. You know, I got in trouble because of you and some of the folks who spoke at Ruth Dalton's march that we're at the other day. And my junior warden was there. You guys heard it because I preached about it. And I got up and I spoke. Felt that was a lot of important. And the dog started barking at the end. And then the mayor spoke, and who else spoke? The city attorney, and you spoke. And my junior warden said to me, she goes, "You know, Doyd, you were the only one that didn't quote the Bible." And that hurt a little bit. It hurt a little bit. Losing my role. But I thought it was interesting and refreshing. And my communication director, Jad, I don't know if he's in here or where he is right now. He's hiding out in the back room doing communications. He said it was the most religious experience he's had, other than church, Jad, in the city of Seattle. Do you have a sense that there is a community of faith around the leadership and the council table?
Absolutely. I've never shied away from my faith. When I was running, I never shied away from it. People would say, that might turn people off, and, separation of church and state and all these things. And I said, you know what? I don't care. This is who I am as a person. This is me. This is my faith. And I'm going to continue to press on with that. And so, we incorporate it in different ways. My newsletter is called Joyful Noise. And I think people have enjoyed that. There's just certain different ways in which I know that we're a very faithful community. I know that there are a lot of people on council, and our mayor included. The mayor and I both went to the same church, so he's known me for 40 years. And there's this sense of there's a sense of a moral compass, that sense of faith that we all have when we're trying to make sure that we're leading the city.
Right on. Well, I have a couple more questions, but I wonder if there's any questions out here that folks might have for Joy about the city or Joan?
I have a comment. I'm grateful for the faith that you bring to the city and to the council overtly, because it's been very hard for people that want to hear that and know that that's at the root of what is happening.
Thank you.
So I'm very grateful.
That's great. Do we have another mic, Amanda, that maybe we could lend out to the folks out there? We'll wait till Amanda. Jed, do you have I'll ask you another question while we're getting the mic. If you think back on sort of, I guess I'd stretch back as far as you want to think. If there's one thing that you could redo in your life, did you say, I'd like to take a mulligan on that, or I'd like to redo that? Does anything jump to mind? Little things or big things? Or
You said mulligan. I'm a golf player, too.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had clubs at the age of 5, and my dad was really good friends with Fred Couples. And so we still remain. When I was running, he hit me up and was like, "Hey, whatever you need." And I was like, "Yeah, I need a fundraiser down. Come here, and so we can raise some money." But if I had one, I don't know if it's one thing that I would do over, but one thing that I think about often was, I'm 40 years old, and I would always think about, like, hey, am I in the right path, or have I done enough? I just felt like, have I done all that I can? And I remember when my grandmother passed in 2022, and I was reading through her life story, and I saw that she didn't really hit her stride until she was 45. And that really resonated with me because I just felt like I hadn't done enough in life, or I felt like I wasn't in the position that I should. Again, all those big ideas I had. I thought I'd be a billionaire on a yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean, right? I was like, I'm nowhere close. But if I don't think one thing, I just had a reset during understanding, like, you know what, you are enough. You are where God wants you to be right now. And you just have to continue to progress forward. And a lot of people really just don't hit their stride until later on. Everybody has a different path. And so that, if I can't think of one thing over, I think I'm really comfortable where I'm at, but that was a really good moment of a reset.
That's good. So I turned 58 in January, and I think that's my hit the stride number. I'm banking on 58 to 59. I remember ramping up. It's a slow, long ramp up for me, Joy. But that is my hope. If you take away one thing from your time, you can pray for that. You can pray for that. Amanda, you got a mic? Pete, you want to say something?
Joy, thanks for coming. I'm Pete, and I'm part of actually Epiphany here supports tiny homes. And I have a two-part question for you, depending on how you answer the first part of the question. Do you believe that tiny homes is a good transitional solution for homeless?
Yes.
What can you do to help move that forward in Seattle then?
Did I answer that correctly?
You did?
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. No, I'm just playing. It is, so with our King County Regional Homeless Authority, I know that one of their pieces was not tiny homes. Like, that wasn't on their agenda. And so we did a big reset on that. And the biggest thing that I'm hearing about for tiny homes, number one, is finding land around our city to be able to put, no, I'm hearing no, yes, no. Okay, awesome. Land. Coding, understanding, like, I see no again, but you know, we'll talk after. I'm just letting you know what I've heard from different groups, from Lehigh to Nicholsville and to other folks, is they said, hey, we have the tiny homes, but we need land. We also need to make it, we also have to fund it correctly in our city. We have not, I see yes, so I got that one right. I'm 1 for 2. We have to fund it correctly. We haven't been funding it correctly as well. And so that's what we're looking at in the budget through our Human Services Department and Department of Housing, understanding, like, hey, can we have line items that are directly for this piece as well? But land, permitting, and funding, and I'll talk to this young lady afterward to educate myself so I can know more.
Well, 2 for 1 sort of my free throw average. So
Yeah, it's 50%.
Yeah, it's good in baseball. It's good in baseball, right? I've never played baseball.
We have Helen here.
Oh, good, Helen.
But I do believe in tiny homes. I just want to say I think it's a great transitional for everyone has a different pathway. I don't think there's just one way, especially when it comes to homelessness. We are not going to solve it, but we can manage it a lot better right now. And I say that because everyone, oh, we can solve it. Yeah, there's a lot, we can manage it a lot better. That's the first step. Can we figure out how we manage it a lot better to get to the solving piece?
Well, say a word before Helen jumps in. Say a word, maybe a word or two more about what the plan is in addition to tiny homes, to thinking about and solving and moving us to help get more people in homes that are appropriate for them.
Yeah, we have a comprehensive plan that's coming down next year in 2025 that is so important for our city because it's going to identify the makeup of our city, understanding zoning, where we want our growth to be, where we're going to have police stations, fire stations, just the whole makeup DNA of our city. And that's going to be in the first part from January to June of next year. We'll have a special committee just like we did for the transportation piece. So this will be the comprehensive plan. I think we'll be able to, we need to build more housing, all types of housing in our city. We just don't have enough, from affordable to regular to market rate, to every single type of housing we need to have in our city. The other thing is we need to have a little bit more of a coordinated response for homelessness. That's what we thought our King County Regional Homeless Authority would be. That has not panned out as more successful as we want it to be. I still believe in it, but we need to have better accountability and actual goals. Like, again, we have these big goals where, hey, we want this up here, but what's the first step? And that's where we really want to focus in on a council, because I don't have the answer. I'm a legislator where we fund the services, but I also come from a small business perspective of, hey, we have to figure out what's working so we can be able to move forward for accountability and transparency and just like, inch our way forward.
Well, good work on the transportation, because now there's more places for me to ride the little green scooters, which I love to ride. So that, well done, well done. Hello.
Thank you for being here. You mentioned that you experienced a lot of the siloing in the city government. One of the things that I think has led to that, both with the city and in private sector, is how many people are not working in an office together anymore. And I know that that's a very hot button issue, and I know that across the board, like corporations are struggling with it, but it struck me that the city could really be doing a lot to improve downtown by insisting that people who work for the city actually work in the city.
Right.
And I don't know what percentage of that is happening now. I did some work with the city. I'm a lawyer, and I had some client work with them, and virtually no one was in the office in City Hall at that time, which was a couple years ago. But I wanted to know if that's changing, and if not, is there any move to move that direction?
Great question. So for our office, we're in the office 5 days a week. Other council members are 5 days a week. I can't begin to tell you how amazing that is to walk down to someone's office and be like, hey, can you figure out this amendment? Can we talk about this? We get stuff done so much faster, and you've seen it at council, some of the stuff we've passed. That's because we're in the office. We don't have to email someone and wait for a meeting to set up, or Zoom someone, or Team someone. I just don't have time for all that. Most of my time is spent face-to-face or on the phone with someone, so I can get stuff done a lot quicker. So we're in the office 5 days a week as a council. Our legislative office, which is but governed by our council president that decides how many times people are in the office or not, are required to be 4 days a week. And that just started this June, or July, where they were required to be 4 days a week. Beforehand, people were just like remote a long time, so 4 days a week. Our mayor has brought back people at a minimum 3 days a week to our downtown. And so he's in charge of that, and that is gonna start pretty soon for folks. So, we feel like this, inching the way back. I know Amazon has now required people that come in 5 days a week. We see this return to downtown. Downtown is our economic engine for our city, which is incredibly important for the tax revenue, the generation, the money that comes into our city. And so that one of the things that we're going to be working on is trying to figure out, can we inch it to 4 days a week for folks? It's a ramp up, for stuff. But one of the things I'm hearing feedback is, Joy, when I need a permit, I need to go talk to someone downtown. Or when I'm doing this, I need to get to someone. Because guess what? When you call to pay a bill, someone answers the phone right away. But to get permits and other things, help for your other necessities, they want to make sure that they can talk face-to-face and accessible.
Jeff, let's take it over, or who has it? Kat? Okay, Kat.
Thank you so much for being here. So one of the things we love about Seattle is sort of the rich diversity. I live in Mount Baker, sort of more on the south end, and we're all concerned about the pressure, the cost of housing, pushing people out, increasing gentrification. For families like yours that have owned your home for so long, I know often for many families it's the property tax that forces them to move out. Are there, I don't know, are there programs or things that are priority for the city to try to provide relief so that we can maintain as much of home ownership for people who've had long-term homes?
That is huge. I know that when someone bought their house back in the day, $5,000-$10,000, they weren't expecting their house to be $1-2 million and pay taxes on that. And so I know that property taxes are with our county piece. They're the ones who control that. But as a city, there are a couple ways in which I've been talking to the county. There are only 10% of people that are eligible for relief, for property tax relief, are actually using it. 10% of the people in the city of Seattle. And a lot of times it takes, if you mail something in, it takes a year for it to be approved. It's hard for people to do it online as well, just the cumbersome of doing online stuff. So we've been working, I have some budget proposals for us to be able to assign someone property tax relief, like for them to go out and help people understand, like right now we've bumped it up to 85,000 for the threshold. Beforehand it was about 60. So if we can get that threshold up, I think would be incredibly important as well. I'm very cognizant of when we're asking people to raise their taxes. I know that Seattle has been a place where we've been a very giving city, but you also want to see results. And when we're asking you to, you know, do a levy or pay more taxes for stuff, I know people are incredibly, that is a big issue. But the other piece to this is we have to also streamline the process for more housing to be built as well, so people can be more homeowners, so we can create a bigger tax base and not rely on the current tax base that we have every time. And I'll tell you this, I'm the first person when they're like, hey Joy, we need more of this, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, we just need to raise taxes. I'm like, no, hold on. Yeah. Let's figure out a better way to either spend this money. Let's have a better impact of this. That's always the last on my list, especially for people that are on fixed incomes. I understand how incredibly difficult that is. I don't have the solution right now, but I know it's something that we're trying to work with the county on to make sure that we're trying to lower those.
Thank you.
And I can give you my card too, as well, to follow up.
Jeff?
Joy, let me join in welcoming you to Epiphany. One of the main topics that comes up in my neighborhood when we all get together is the rise in crime.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a real feeling.
Which neighborhood are you in? If you don't
Mount
mind?
Baker.
Yep. Okay.
So, you know, minor things like car prowling all the way up to home invasions.
Yep.
And we've heard a lot about what the city council is doing to make the city core safer, and certainly supportive of that. But how about the neighborhoods?
Yeah.
What can the city council do to make the neighborhoods safer?
Great. I really appreciate that question. I know that was one of the things I ran on was public safety. So a lot of the data, and you just named it, like we have been focused on certain core places, 3rd and Pike, 12th and Jackson, Capitol Hill, Aurora, University District. There's a bunch of different places where our hotspots are, which require a ton of time for our officers to respond. Like I can't begin to tell you, I drive those places all the time because I'm trying to see the improvement of them. I just drove 12th and Jackson just yesterday, and we had 4 police cars that were there from the East Precinct. That was all the police cars from the East Precinct at one location. So then they don't have time to go to our neighborhoods and other places. So that's why we've been focusing there to do a lot of the, we just passed a crime center CCTV cameras, so we can have real reports back. There can be a center that says, hey, you know, this is happening at this location, so they don't have to spend a lot of their time, you know, in those places because we have eyes watching them with cameras. And I just came out with the mayor supportive of the proposal for cameras down 23rd from Jackson to Union, because we've had a lot of drive-by shootings along there. And so that's one thing. Can I say shootings in the church? Yeah, okay. Okay. I can, right? Okay. Shootings.
I mean, they're not in the Bible. There's no shootings in the Bible, but yeah.
Shootings. I didn't know how, detail I could be. So so propose those cameras, but one of the things we've asked our officers to do, if we don't know about it, they can't react to it. So a lot of people said, Joy, it is just a waste of time for me to call 911 or file a police report, right? I get it, but you know what? They go through that data. And so I tell people, if you don't want to send to send it to me. I can, because I always bump it up to our captain. I have monthly meetings with our precinct captain in the East Precinct, and I'm always talking to him like, hey, I'm hearing from Mount Baker neighborhood. There are car prowlers, they're this and that. Tell me what time of day they are. Tell me every descriptive thing you possibly can, and I bump that up to our officers so then they can be able to have that information. But if they don't know about it, then they just don't know. And so I know a lot of times you can also file a report, forward it on to me. Say, hey, Joy, here's my case number, because we're constantly advocating, and I have direct access. Sometimes you might say, hey, Joy, this is what's happening. I'll call the chief about it. And I'll say, hey, chief, like we're struggling in this neighborhood. Can you provide some relief? Can you send some people? Can we have an eye on this? You know, we're always fighting for resources, but I want to be able, because I have close proximity to a lot of the people that can be able change makers. Just please send it to our office so I can help elevate that.
Joy, is it so on occasion, my wife will tell you, I happened to leave the car doors unlocked in our car, and I don't leave anything in the car because I know better than that, right? Because if there's something in there, somebody's gonna break a window. But they'll come through it, and if they'll test the doors, and if the door is unlocked, they'll open it up, and then they'll rifle through the glove compartment. There's nothing in the glove compartment. Something that small?
Yeah, something that small, meaning like just
Something like this, they broke into my car, right?
Yeah,
and
something
and they raffled through it, and then there wasn't anything, and they went away. And
Absolutely, because right now people, because of the data, because people when they have property crime happen to them, because we're not reporting it, the data shows that property crime has fallen in Seattle. And so people, and I'm like, no, I believe it's going up. Just people have just, not reported it. They've given up. Oh, it doesn't matter and whatnot. So please, I tell people we have to be our biggest advocates. Please report it. We're obviously recruiting more officers so we can do more beat cops, just walking the street, knowing who they are, just getting them out as well. And we're taking pressure off our department as well because we're upping our care team and our park rangers as well. A lot of the activity that happens are in our park, and a lot of officers are called into our park, but with rangers, we're taking the pressure off of them so they can be able to so the officers can be able to manage their time a lot better to activities that are happening that are different and do a lot of preventative work. Last but not least, this is really big. We are civilianizing our detectives to be able, not detectives, but to help our detectives. That is in the budget because I'm telling you, we don't have enough detectives to link a lot of the criminal activity going on in our city because all of those officers are pulled off to do patrol. And so now with having 26 people that will be able to civilianize our department to help with just the paperwork will free up a lot of time so we can start linking, because a lot of the activity is, we just had a big bust. It was 3 people that were responsible for 86 carjackings, all in King County. We just did not have enough time to be able to link those, but now we will be able to do that. And so I know we'll start seeing a lot of improvement towards the end of the year and the beginning of 2025 of us solving a lot of the activity that's going on in our city.
Margie?
Al and I just returned from a meeting in Minneapolis, and I was accosted literally by a friend who lives in Iowa, and she said to me, oh, so I don't have to go on, but she went on and on and on. I couldn't stop her about how awful it is in Seattle. And there's no way I could engage her and share all the positive things. But on a happy note, Friday when we returned, we spent the day down on the waterfront. And if you all have not been there yet, it is amazing. And my request is, could you encourage the city to get some really good positive publicity out about all the wonderful things that are happening in our city? Because the day we spent at the aquarium and the waterfront was just amazing.
Absolutely.
So I have to say, we were downtown Friday night, and I was so surprised. It felt safe. There were a lot of people out and about. It was really quite nice.
We're working on the cleanliness. I think just clean. It bothers me. You know how dirty our city is at times. So the cleanliness is huge, and we've made investments in our waterfront, climate pledge. We have the convention center. We have all these pieces, but now we need to connect them all together, and I think that's going to be our next challenge. And then working on the positive light. I was just in Detroit. National publicity. The World Cup's going to be huge for us. All eyes are going to be on us. It was in Qatar last year, and the lowest watched game in Qatar was 750 million people. For Super Bowl, the highest is 650 million people. So they're going to be, all eyes are going to be on us for 3 weeks in 2026. And so I think that's going to be important as we're cleaning up the city, getting it ready and set, and then also keeping it that way. We cleaned up the city for MLB, and you walked around like, where is this? And they kind of did a little reset. Now we wanted to continue to keep the momentum, especially for World Cup, because we're investing a ton of money. And we're going to have to continue that momentum. I think that's going to be important. And bringing back our Sonics. The way, yeah, right? The only way that will happen is unless the NBA feels confident that the perception of Seattle as well, and that we are a healthy city and vibrant city. So we'll be working on that.
So let me follow up. What can we do as a church to help during the World Cup?
That's a good question.
Right? Come on.
Yeah, right.
Right? Who wants to help with the World Cup?
That's good to know. I know we were gonna have a lot of volunteer positions. We also want to make sure that the economic impact goes out into neighborhoods and not just downtown core, which will be important because 750,000 people will be coming to the city of Seattle, and that's how many people
Bring
we
them to
currently
church,
have.
man. Tell them.
Church.
Come here and pray for their team. If their team's like a little shaky, we'll pray for any team, right? Right, we'll pray for even the Brazilians.
Yeah.
We're going to pray for even the Brazilians.
And that team will win, probably.
Because we're praying for them.
Yeah.
Right, and seriously, though, think about it, then, and now that we have it on our radar, Amanda, we're going to be putting together World Cup teams.
I'll think about ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. Ashley.
Yeah, you mentioned streamlining the process to create more housing
Yeah.
in Seattle, and I work with the city quite a bit, and my experience is that it's very bureaucratic.
Yep.
One of the positive things that I think has happened recently is the design review board process for housing, for affordable housing was removed. What are some of the other steps that y'all are taking to streamline or remove the barriers to creating more affordable housing in the city?
Yeah, great question. So next year I'm going to be coming out with an initiative called Welcome Home, and those are going to have 10 barriers that 10 legislative, and I'm going to be submitting my legislative intent in the next couple weeks, 10 things in which we could do better as a city to be able to build housing. Because I'm on the Parks, Utilities, and Technology Committee, I've submitted information for the departments of City Light and Utilities to get me every information that we tag on for how we make it more expensive. So for example, if you're an affordable housing provider, you're building on a corner, the Seattle Public Utilities is probably making you replace a water main. And that tags into your cost of housing. That shouldn't be the case, right? So there's a list of legislative pieces that we're going to be going down from City Light to Seattle Public Utilities. I've asked SDCI to send me every cost that is associated with building housing that we as a city are tacking on to developers, so I could be able to have the best legislative agenda items and get my colleagues to buy into that, because we have, whether it's affordable, like I said, we have to build to accommodate what is going to happen in the next generations, and to be, for your grandkids and your kids to be able to afford to live here. So I can get back to you regarding some of the stuff, and if you have ideas, I would love to get them, but I have a list of things that we're going to be proposing.
Joy, before you leave, to remind us of your email, because you told, I don't know where you and I were talking or where I heard you talking, but you said send any questions, but also any crime stats.
Well, I have an email for that. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
Wait,
okay.
I'm sorry.
What's that email?
Yeah, so, and I didn't bring a paper with me, I'm sorry, but it's...
We can write it down and put it at a glance, too.
Okay, awesome. It's called, and I'll go slow, and this isn't, I have 2 email addresses. The first one is called d3help@seattle.gov. So it's just the letter D, the number 3, help@seattle.gov. And then my other email is just my email, which is my first and last name, joy.hollingsworth@seattle.gov. And if you can send it, now I ask people, give us just a little bit of grace. Some people sent me an email and they're like, I haven't heard from you for a week. And I'm like, I know. So just, I get it. And I want to say, well, did you hear from your predecessor before? 10 years. So, yeah, I just, come on, comparison. So if you send an email to d3help@seattle.gov, we get it, we tag it, we label it, and we're able to respond back. Our response time right now is usually like 15 days, 11 to 15 days. That might seem long, but I can't begin to tell you it's really fast right now with the amount of volume that we get. So if you send an email to there with like maybe something happen in your city, crime, whatever it is, we're able to respond back a little bit quicker like that. Or you can send me an email as well.
Jim?
Yes, what relationship does the city council have with the Seattle School District?
Yeah, so great question. So city council, we're responsible for everything outside of a school. The school district is responsible for curriculum, everything in a school. I know your question's probably leading to, there's some school closures, what's going on with Seattle Public Schools, how can the city council help? I've been contacting Dr. Jones and the school board. I think our rep for District 5 is Michelle Sarju. I've been connecting with them since they had I found out about the school closures just like everyone else. And I know a lot of people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, I learn about things in the news just like everyone else sometimes. So the school closures was definitely a surprise to me. And so we've been advocating because there was a ton of schools that wanted to get closed in our district. But I don't think any school should get closed. And so have been asking them to send us like information and wondering like, hey, what are the schools that are up for that? What is your plan for that as well? And then trying to work with the mayor's office to understand, is there any way the city can help? I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I do know that we have a great relationship with our school district. But I'm learning just like everyone else.
Elizabeth?
Really quickly, thank you for being here. A shout out for the Waterfront Seattle Public-Private Partnership and how well the city has worked together with private citizens to cultivate and bring something that is desperately needed for the economic development, as well as the ecological awareness of a livable Seattle. I'd like to tag on to what Jim was saying in terms of education and in terms of our cultural institutions. It's great to pay attention to the economic drivers of our sports institutions, but I was just with the head of Pacific Science Center last night, and our cultural institutions are incredibly important and deserve a lot of the city's attention because they're a huge economic driver as well, from the Seattle Art Museum to the Fry to the Science Center, etc. So I think we really need to pay attention to that, which brings me to my final thought, is that our citywide council member, Tanya Wu, is up for election on November 5th, and I know that she is part and parcel of kind of looking out and after the cultural institutions. She's been in her position for 8 months, and I think you've endorsed her. Jonathan and I are a huge supporter, but if you could just tell us why she's important and voting this citywide position is important now, given our city council and our mayor's agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can, because I'm in my council member role, I can answer that question as why, not Tanya Wu as a candidate, but why I like working with her as a colleague, if that's okay. I love working with Councilmember Wu, Tanya Wu, because number one, she shows up. Anytime I ask her for her support, she's there. She's born and raised from here, has strong roots in the CID, Chinatown International District. I also couldn't think of a better colleague that also like is so supportive of the arts and understands that. She's head of the Sustainability, Environmental, and Arts and Culture Committee. So she's done a great job of advocating for that. I know she has a ton of amendments coming down to make sure that we preserve the arts, Department of Arts, all the funding and the ad tax and everything goes back into the arts. So we're preserving all those programs as well. And also she shares a lot of the values that we have on city council with, you know, public safety and making sure the city's clean and for families, just the basics, which I think a lot of people are craving with our city, the basics, the essentials, the fundamentals of our city, which I can't be more grateful for. And she is up for election, and she'll be also up, then we'll have another citywide race as well. I want to also point this out, which is important. Next year, like this was big for us to have a council. There were 7 council members up for election last year. Next year is going to be even huge. We have a mayoral election. We have a King County executive election. We have 2 city council citywide seats on the ballot, and we also have a city attorney that's going to be on the ballot. That's the makeup of our city. And so as this election is great and big, presidential election, next year is going to be huge for our city. And we have to be able to get out and vote and just like mobilize. So I wanted to name that because that is going to be huge for our city.
So we're almost out of time. I know there's a lot of, one more question. Yeah, let's have it.
Oh, yes, Donovan. So how are you planning on securing the funding, recognizing that there's also crime in high places as well as the streets? How are you gonna secure the finances so that, you know, you could do everything what you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're in budget talks. So that's a great question, Donovan. We received the mayor's proposal for the budget 2 weeks ago. We have been reading, the budget is like 2,000, it's a lot so I've been digging my head in budgets. And so right now there are proposals that are being presented to our council regarding public safety, affordable housing, all these different things. There are some cuts in there that the mayor has proposed as well. And so right now we're looking as a council to understand, like, hey, are there some things we can save? Are there some things we can consolidate? Are there some things that, you know, we can taper down to, you know, what are things that we can be able to manage a little bit better? And you can come to public comment October 16th to be able to voice your concerns, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's crime, whatever it is. You can call in, you can write us. And then we will not pass the budget until the end of November, around Thanksgiving is when it passes. So we still have enough time. I really encourage everyone to kind of go and read the high level, you know, proposals that are being presented in our budget. And you don't have to know anything. You just send me an email, say, hey, Joy, here are my values. This is what I would like to see, you know, and to make sure that you protect that.
Fabulous. Well, one last question. What do you need from a church, neighborhood church here?
Prayer. And sorry, I answered that real quick.
Yeah.
Here's my biggest ask for churches and for communities. A lot of people felt I need people to get more active. We have a lot of people that come down to City Hall, and you know, people think, I mean, they're some of the loudest voices in our city, and I know sometimes that does not reflect, you know, our general population. I can't begin to tell you, and I have to represent them too, and I listen to them, I listen to everyone, but I just feel like if we just had more people activated, and you don't have to come down to City Hall. I know it's a pain in the butt to get down there and take the bus and this and that. Write us an email. Send us a letter. Send us a simple email. You can send me an email all the time. Hey, Joy, I saw this coming down the pipeline. I support this. So I'm able to say, you know what? This community supports this, because sometimes we just don't know. And I know I would knock doors all in this neighborhood, and people would come to the door and they say, Joy, I feel unsafe. To tell you I feel unsafe. That's what I was going through, you know? And so I know a lot of people believe certain things, they have values. Please just send us messages. Let us know if we're doing a bad job. Just let us know that too, or a good job, whatever it is. But please get involved and active in local politics. It's important. And last but not least, because I know you have to go to your next service. Sorry, I don't want to hold you up and you be late. Last but not least, the other thing too is we have to have a better, we have to continue to have our local politics not be so political. The political powers right now run Seattle, and I hate that, because that really affects us as a city. As a person, I'm not worried about, am I progressively filling your pothole or conservatively doing the sidewalk? You know, I'm worried about like just serving you as a nonpartisan person from your community. And it has to be less political, and the more voices you get involved where you say, you know what, this is what we want, this is what we believe in, the less political nonsense that we have in our city will continue to move on. So I just want to say that.